Hello guys, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
Fine.
I'm sure.
All right. In today's class, we are going to learn how to use the non-defined and relative clauses.
Interesting.
Okay, to start with the explanation of the non-defining relative clauses, it is important that you know that it is to give extra information about something. And in this case, it will be about a person or about a thing that you're talking about. So if you are, I don't know if you want to explain something else about a person, you might want to use who, as it is says in this example. For example, Fernanda, can you read this example, please?
Professor Marvin, who was always early, was not in the classroom today.
Excellent, thank you. So as we can see, the main clause, the relative clause here was who was always early, and we used a comma after the subject, which was Professor Marvin, and then is the non-defined relative clause who was which, and then we use the extra information that we wanted to give, that he was not in the classroom today.
All right, here in the next example, well, it's the same example as the last one. Professor Martin, who was always early, was not in the classroom today. Okay, here we can see that who was always early give us extra information about the professor. Yes, and this is a notified and relative clause. Yes, there's no need to identify or specify who are we talking about because we already know by the context of the sentence. Lalo, can you read again the sentence, please?
Of course. Professor Marvin, who was always early, was not in the classroom today.
All right, yes. So remember, there is no need to identify or specify the person that we are talking about in this case. All right, let's see the next one.
Okay, we need to remember that to use a non-defining relative clause is usually separated the main clause with a comma or two commas. For example, in the first one, it says, I went to the cinema with Mary, comma, who I think you met, who I think you met. So it's basically separating the main clause with the relative clause. And so you are going to use who or which are the non-defining relative clauses. For example, Lalo, can you read the second example, please?
The garden, which was full of flowers, is from our neighbor, Alex.
And do you know which was the relative clause?
Which
Yes,
was? Mhm.
is the whole sentence, which was full of flowers, and it's separated between the two commas, as I explained you before.
Right, and here we can say that we always start a non-defining relative clause with a relative pronoun. In this case, we are using who. Or like in the last example, we are using which. There's five relative clauses that we can use. For example, who, we use it with people. Which, we use it with objects or animals. We also have where, that we use it with places. We have when, that we use it with time. And the last one, whose, that sometimes it is more complex, that we can use with possession. Okay, here we can have that who can be the subject or the object of the non-relative clause. Oh, Fer, can you read this example, please?
She was engaged to Louis, who she had met at Dartmouth.
Dharma, yes, very good. Okay, as you can see, here we use whom. Okay, later we are going to explain you why we use that.
Okay, as what we were explaining, you can also use the non-defined relative clauses beginning with which and to say something about the whole situation describing the main clause. For example, in the first one, it says, I never met Susie again, which was a pity. And which was a pity is extra information about the main relative clause, which was I never met Susie again. So these help us to describe something else or to express more about the whole situation that we were describing before. Lalo, can you read the second example, please?
He was a little tense, which was understandable.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So as you can see in this second example, it says he was a little tense, which is the main clause, and which was understandable after separated with a comma, is describing the whole situation about the person that was little tense.
All right, and here we have that when we are talking about a group of people, and then we want to say something about only some of them, like we want to specify who are we talking about, we can use the following. None of whom, many of whom, some of whom, one of whom, and for objects, many of which, some of which, one of which, and none of which. And here we have some examples. Fer, can you read the first one, please?
Yes, they were all friends, many of whom had known each other for years.
Yes, and Lalo, can you read the second example, please?
Yes, he talked about very interesting people, some of whom he was still in contact with.
Yes, as you can see in those examples, we have a group of people, and we want to specify. We want to say an extra information about the people, but only some of them, not all of them. And that's the case when we can use um, these examples, the none of whom, many of whom, some of whom. Yes. Okay, doubt that you have or a question that you have until now? Or everything is clear? What do you think?
Um, who,
We use which with objects and we use whom with people. That's the difference.
thank you.
We can say which we use objects or animals. For example, my friend has a lot of dogs, many of which are color brown, for example. Yes. Or my dad has a lot of cards, many of which are expensive. That's another example.
Thank you.
Okay, so as Melanie was telling you about that there were five different relative clauses. There are another two that we haven't seen, which are when or where. These two relative clauses are are because of expression of time and place. So you're going to use it when you want to specify um, a place or maybe the time of something. For example, in the first example is talking about that date, that is 2019, and it says she went to my party in 2019 and is comma separated between the main clause and the relative clause, and then you use when I was still in college. So as you can see, is using when to specify that in 2019 this person was still in college. So is used for time or place. And can someone read the second example, please?
He has just come back from holiday in Cancun, where Alex and I went last year.
Okay, thank you. So as you can see here, it used where, and this relative clause is to specify the place which took place the main relative clause. So you need to use it after a comma. It is very important, so you don't lose the meaning and you focus on specifying the more information that you want to give.
Okay, and here we have a review of about we already saw. For example, the first review, it's use comma before who, where, which, or whom. Before this, and the second one is which is when you want to say something about the main clause or to give extra information about something. And the number three, try to not use that. Why? Because sometimes in who and which we can also say that, but we try to avoid that. It's a rule that you can use it, but it's better if you yes, if we use the who and the which. It will sound better and it will be more formal. All right.
Okay, so we're going to have an activity in which you will have um, yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
So we will have an activity in which you will have three images of three known people, and each of them will have a description about them. So you need to read them, and when we ask you about it, you have to tell us the same descriptions, but using the non-defining relative clauses. And one celebrity has a lie in its description, so you need to find who is it. And when you find it, you need to tell us which one is it, but using a non-defining relative clauses. Do you have any doubt?
No.
Okay, so here we have the three pictures of the celebrities that we are going to analyze today. We have Albert Einstein, Charles Darwin, and Isaac Newton. Fer, can you read the information about Albert Einstein, please?
Yes, Albert Einstein was a scientist.
Scientist.
Yes, and discovered the theory of relativity and liked to play the violin.
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 Lalo, can you read the information about Charles Darwin, please?
Yes, Charles Darwin was a geologist and biologist, discovered natural selection, and liked to collect insects.
Okay, Fer, can you read the last one, please?
Yes, Isaac Newton was a physicist. Discovered the laws of gravity and motion, and liked to write poems.
Okay, and an example using a relative clause because you are going to give me an example. And using these examples, we are, and using these examples, these three characters, we are going to make sentences using the relative clauses. For example, first we have Albert Einstein. An example that we can make with his information, it can be Albert Einstein, who was a scientist, discovered the theory of the relativity. That can be one example, and the next one. Albert Einstein, who discovered the theory of the relativity, comma, liked to play the violin. So using the information, we can make different examples. All right, do you have questions or doubts?
No,
No.
it's okay.
All right, so Fer, can you give me two examples about Charles Darwin, please?
Yes. The first example is Charles Darwin, who was a geologist and biologist, liked to collect insects.
Very good. And do you think that we can make another example with this information?
Yes. Charles Darwin, who discovered the natural selection, was a geologist and biologist.
Yes, very good. So what do you think about relative clauses? It's easy, right? To use them.
It's easy. Bueno, ¡ay! Me choca. No sé qué decir.
You can say yes, it's easy.
Okay. Yes, it is.
All right. Now, Lalo, can you give me one example about Isaac Newton, please?
Yes, let me think.
All right.
Isaac Newton, who was a physicist, discovered the laws of gravity and motion.
Very good. And another example you can make with the information?
Yes. Isaac Newton, who discovered the laws of gravity and motion, liked to write poems.
Yes, very good. And Lalo, you know a lot of about physics. So do you think that you can make an example using which and using the laws of gravity and motion?
I can try. Maybe the laws of gravity and motion which were discovered by Isaac Newton, are three of the most important in physics in that topic.
Okay, yes, very good. That's a very good example about how can we
Thank
use
you.
and how can we use which. So what do you think? Do you have a doubt or a question?
No, it's very easy.
All right, so here we have a lot of, well, examples and information about them, but we hide a fake fact about them. And you have to guess which one is fake and which one is real. So what do you think? Which one do you think that is fake and which one do you think that is true?
I think the fake of Albert Einstein is like to play the violin.
Violin? No, that one is true actually.
Oh,
I believe that the wrong, it will be Charles Darwin, who was a geologist and biologist, didn't like to collect insects.
No,
Oh,
Is that,
that's
is,
incorrect.
oh,
So
incorrect. So do you want to?
the the one that was not true, it was of Isaac Newton. For example, that Isaac Newton, who was a physicist, didn't like to write poems. So that was the one.
Mhm. There was one that I was fake. That
Very
is.
good. You did it all really well, and you use well examples using the non-defining relative clauses. So it was great.
Yes, I think you understand very everything really good, very well. You're a very good student. I think you did a very good job understanding how to use the relative clauses, and you're a very good student. So, what do you think? Do you have doubts or questions?
no, it was all clear.
Was clear? All right. So, I think
Yes,
that will be it. And I hope you apply these rules and the relative clauses in your daily life, so you can try and practice.
I will.
Okay,
thank
so that
you.
will be it for today. Goodbye.
Thanks
Thank you
a
and
lot.
have a
Thank
good
you, teachers.
bye.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, and for last activity, now we are going to say 5 facts about yourselves. Yes, information that later we are going to use to make sentence using relative clauses.
Just like the information that we saw with these three celebrities. It can be short, like your name, something that you do, like working or studying, and something that you like. And then one of you is going to say your information, and the other one is going to extend it with the relative clauses. Is it clear? Do you have any doubt?
It's clear.
All right. So, Lalo, please tell me 5 facts about yourself.
Mhm. All right. My name is Lalo. I'm 22 years old. I am tall. I work at Costco.
Mhm.
I drive a blue car and I have a dog named Mora.
Okay, and Fer, can you give me 5 facts about yourself?
Yes. Yes, my name is Fernanda. I used to go in the same high school as Lalo, and my hair is brown and large.
Uh-huh. Okay, very good. Okay, now using that information, you are going to make 2 sentences using the relative clauses. All right, so Lalo, are you ready about the information that Fernanda made?
I was born ready.
All right, so tell me your 2 sentences.
Yes. Mm, Fernanda, who is beautiful, used to go to my school.
Mhm.
And Fernanda's hair, which was brown, used to be shorter. That's it.
Okay, now Fernanda, are you ready with your 2 sentences?
Um, yes.
Okay, so tell me your 2 sentences.
Okay. Uh, Lalo, who worked at Costco, is a great friend,
Uh-huh.
and Lalo, who is tall, was with me in the high school.
Yes, very good.
Perfect.
I think you did a very good job using the relative clauses, and I think now you are ready to make sentence using them.